Hey everyone, welcome back to Original versus Remake with me, John, and Dennis. And today we are going to be doing one that, in my opinion, is one of the best films of the 1980s and one of its 2000s remakes. And that film is The Stepfather. And Dennis, funny enough, the first time I ever talked about The Stepfather on this channel was when you and I did a top 10 horror movies of the 80s list together. And I had this on my list. And I had at that point just completely erased the remake. But what do you think, like, of The Stepfather original?
I think I owe you a big thank you because I actually never watched the original until we shot that video where you mentioned it in your top 10 horror movies of the 80s. Um, and that was not long ago. And I watched it probably a week after that. Absolutely loved it. Rewatched it for this. And I actually was excited to rewatch it for this. I think that this is a slept on classic, in my opinion. The original one is so good. Just everything about it is so good.
I completely agree. The original one is a classic of the 1980s, an unbeloved classic because I don't feel like it's seen enough. And then, of course, the remake from 2009, when it came out, it just kind of came and went for me. I don't even really remember it. Like when I was watching, I'm like, I don't know, did I see this? I'm not even entirely sure. I felt like Terry O'Quinn in The Stepfather. Like, who am I here? You know, have I seen this movie before?
Yeah, no, but the original, and I'm glad you mentioned Terry O'Quinn just right out of the gate. He played this role perfectly, and we'll get to it later with the remake, but I think that's what was missing. He was so good in everything with this, every aspect, the little slip ups, all the way up to the one you just mentioned, which I think again is probably one of my all-time favorite scenes in horror when he's in the kitchen and he says the wrong name and his wife says that what did you just say? And he literally the look in his eyes as he says,
Wait a minute. Who am I here?
Jerry.
Jerry. Jerry Blake. Thank you, honey.
and then just blasts her with the phone.
Hit me with the phone, Dick!
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, that's right. Thank you, honey," and then just literally slams her with the phone, like, because like now he's coming to, and he's like, "Oh, I mean, that's it now, right? I might as well lean right into this," and she's done.
Yeah, that was such a good scene. It was shot so well. His facial expression just said it all. It was, you genuinely felt his like realization of, oh man, I've lost track. I don't remember who I am now. And it was just, I think that's the biggest takeaway from my end on the original. This felt authentic. The characters felt authentic. Everyone fit the roles perfectly, and the film there's never a point that you're bored. There's never a point that you're, oh, of course this is going to happen. Oh, of course that just happened. I think start to finish, you're really invested in it and you enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's extremely entertaining. The score is fantastic. And one thing I noticed, and I guess I didn't realize until this time, and the remake clearly wanted to avoid this, was how bloody this movie is. Like the opening scene to me in the original is one of the best opening scenes. Forget in horror, just in film. If like you don't know what's coming and you watch this for the first time, and you're like, why is this guy getting? Why is he like shaving? Why is he all bloody? What's all over him? And he just walks down the stairs, and then it's just a disgusting massacre all over the floor. Like it looks terrible. I mean, dead kids and him just being so nonchalant about it, which I guess if you're going to get away with this, you have to be like, he's still cleaning up a little bit. It's just like, you're like, what the fuck kind of person is this? And then in the remake, they do the same thing, but it's not that bloody.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because that was my number one biggest complaint was the opening scene. Because in the original, the score that's playing, I think, is perfect while he's going through everything and he's shaving and changing his appearance and everything. And I love that he doesn't have any interaction in the original. He just walks down the stairs with his suitcase, kind of takes a second to look, then looks away and just walks away. There's no interaction. There's no like, let me fix this, clean this, any of that. He just it's almost more cold blooded than in the remake because he's just so detached from it all. And like you said, it is a massacre in that living room. I mean, there's blood splatter on the walls, on the windows. There's couch cushions ripped up, but it looks like there was a fight to the death in there, which there obviously was. And music playing fits the scene so well. And then the way he just walks out walks down the block, and like disappears from this whole entire existence. I just think that was shot so well in the original. I think again it fits perfectly in the original, and then the remake glossed it. And I thought it actually kind of like cushioned the blow because it's just people kind of like with their best dead face on, laying down like on the ground, no blood, no anything, and it just felt like the PG version of the original.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I felt. And it's like and it kind of set up what I thought could be a cool concept to like try and separate itself from the original was, that was on Christmas. I'm like, oh, that's even more fucked up. He killed this whole entire family around Christmas time. But instead of jumping 1 year later, they jump 6 months later and avoid that entire thing and kind of make it more of a summer movie. Where this one also feels very much like the fall with all the sweaters that Jerry's wearing. He's just playing that like perfect 1980s dad that you think, but underneath it all, he's a fucking killer. Whereas, in the remake with Dylan Walsh, he's just more, I don't know, like he does feel like of the 2000s. I guess he plays it a little bit more safer. Like he has a little bit more layers to him. He's not trying to just be the complete family man. And I appreciate that, but it also doesn't feel as genuine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm actually, again, happy you brought it up. We're very on the same page here, and I'm wondering if you feel the same way I do. I feel like when we're watching a lot of these original versus remakes, there's something about like the 70s and the 80s with horror and really movies in general. They're not polished. Even the actors and actresses, and this is not an insult. I'm not saying anybody's ugly. They're normal looking. They're normal people. They dress very normal. Their houses are very normal. They have regular cars. Like the is it Jerry Terry O'Quinn, whatever one in the original.
Mhm.
He it like his outfits fit him, like wearing the sweaters, and he just seems like a normal guy who would just be someone's stepdad. The mom just seems like a mom. The daughter just seems like a regular high school / college age daughter. There's nothing flashy about them. They're very regular. They're very relatable. When we get into the remakes of the 2000s, Hollywood gets like polished where every actor and every actress, they're like supermodel plastic dolls, where you can't relate to them because they don't feel like real people. They're very fake. They're very, they have these immaculate houses and they dress all nice and like it's very like of money, which I think is what it's that polish Hollywood puts on everything that I think strips away the connection you feel to characters.
No, I couldn't agree more. You're 100% right. Like the mom isn't like some kind of flashy actress. Like the actress in the 2009 one, she's beautiful, and you've seen her in a million things before. She's the one who sets off the murder in The Fugitive, but
Mm-hmm.
she's great. But she's a gorgeous woman. Same thing with like Dylan Walsh. He's like a handsome looking fella, big jaw and all, but like. Compared to Terry O'Quinn, who just looks like a regular guy, other than when he's naked, because I mean the guy is chiseled. I was like, kind of impressive, but a regular looking head. Like that's what
Yeah.
it is. And like he can able just like blend that into like even like towards the end of the movie where he's looking for his next family and how he's just like able to put the glass on. You're like, you would think this guy's like some kind of weak little bookworm. Instead, like underneath it all, he'll just end your life.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the big thing is, there's not as much polish on it back then. And again, not say it's not like everyone was hideous. Everyone obviously looks great in the film and they play their role wonderfully, but they just look normal. They didn't try to make them flashy characters. They were regular, everyday mom and pops, regular kids, and you felt that connection. I think it helps too that like it fits with the camera work and how it was shot and how the film was a little grainy, like it has a very
Well,
old-timey feel.
one thing I noticed about the 80s one, and I absolutely have loved this since the very beginning of like watching The Stepfather, and they completely take it out of the remake, which again, like you said, it's just like it's too polished and flashy, and there's no style to it. The original had a style where every time they're in the house and he's like killing, like in the beginning and towards the end, if you ever look, there's nothing outside. It's just white light shining in from the outside. They clearly set up white lights on the set and let it shine in every time. If you ever look, you can never see anything outside, like you're inside of Jerry's world. Like there's some kind of style there, and it's only from the inside because towards the end of the movie when the daughter's trying to escape in the bathroom, can't see out the window, but when you're outside looking in the window, it's completely see-through. You can see everything. So it's like it was a stylistic choice, and that means like the movie had made some artistic choices. Whereas the '09 one, like you just said, it just feels like they're on a, in the biggest house. Everything is so beautiful and shiny. And I don't think, and it just looks like a 2009 horror film in the sense that, it's just, it's generic looking. It's forgettable looking. Nothing special about it. Where the original one, it's a beautiful looking film.
Yeah, and I think that's as we talk about these original and remakes. And I know sometimes, like we just talked about Dawn of the Dead, I had said that I think the Hollywood polish helped that for the zombie part of it, made the zombies better. But I don't think for a lot of these, like again, even like Texas Chainsaw when we talked about it, they polished it up so much that it was, like you said, a generic horror movie in the remake. And that's the same with this one. The person who wrote and directed and everything, the original, they had a concept, they had an idea, they had their artistic freedom to do what they wanted, like you said, with the different lighting and the white in the window so you can't see outside. All that stuff, artistic choices they had because it was their vision. With all these horror movie remakes in particular in the 2000s, I feel like Hollywood just looked at it and was like, well, yeah, this is a pretty good movie back then. Let's just go ahead and put it, but let's cut all that other stuff out. Let's just do cookie cutter ABC, like all the stuff like Wes Craven made fun of in Scream, basically. Hollywood was like, let's just do exactly that and just make this like every other horror movie that we've ever made. And they polished it up, they cleaned it up, and it just, you don't connect with it. The characters don't really feel authentic. You don't really feel dread at all because you're kind of just like, all right, well, this is just fine.
Yeah, exactly. And this is unfortunately that's kind of like what it is. I'm like, I don't, and the remake, to be fair, does do some things a little bit better than the original. The original is not a flawless film. There's an entire side character in this movie that just pays off with nothing, where we have a brother who just came out of nowhere and just like drops the bomb, like, do you know her? She was my sister. And then he's like, ah, man, I'm sorry. And then that's the logic of the fact that a guy who massacred his whole family, like the fact that nobody wants to investigate this thing, like in 2025 logic, in the sense with all the true crimes, this is front page news. Like
Yeah.
back then, they're like, no one wants to do the work. And it's only local. Like they're only looking, like I think he said, like within a 3-hour range. And I'm like, at the very least, the local news would be a little concerned about a guy who murdered his entire family and just walked off. Like, like to not put the picture in the paper, like, the editor didn't want to do it. I'm like, that just makes no sense. And then the payoff is the second he walks in, Jerry kills him.
Next time, Jim, call before you drop by.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're absolutely not a flawless movie, and that is the big. And you know what's funny?
They fix it in the remake.
Yeah, in the remake, in the very beginning, after he leaves, and they have the police all talking about the first family that died, which we find out isn't the first, but they say like there's the ex-husband, and they're like, where was he? He was drinking. It was his first Christmas without them, and they plant that seed. So like literally 10 minutes into the remake, you know this guy, and you know why he's interested. It's not like, I feel like in the original, that guy who turns out to be the brother, they don't even really like elaborate on that until he's dead. Like it takes forever to understand what he's even doing. It's very, so I agree that character he's very much a sidebar that feels like they put him in one scene and then forgot about him when they were shooting the rest of the film, and then at the end they were like, oh shit, we had this guy, let's just throw him in there, get him killed.
Yeah, I think that they realized like some of the logic of the whole situation, like they had to address, but I didn't really think you had to too much, because like then you start to think a little bit too much. But at least in the remake, they decided that they did the ex-husband thing, which makes more sense. Have him around to do the exposition, like investigating like who this guy really is, so that people are asking the questions. There's a lot more logic in there. And honestly, I was pretty upset when he died because I felt bad for him, because he was actually a good guy, like just struggling, like to see his kids, even though his son is, I think, pretty close in age to him.
Yeah, well, another classic Hollywood deal there. Let's get these 26-year-old kids to play 12-year-olds kind of mentality. So that was a little weird, but I do agree. I feel like it was one of those, they cleaned that part up for sure. I will give just so we're not dunking on the remake so hard, they did clean up that whole aspect of it and give it a point where it was like, okay, people are suspicious, they have reasons to be suspicious, and that made a lot and cleared up a lot more, where the original kind of just, I feel like it just hoped you wouldn't look at that. It would be like, they just don't think about that part, and this movie's great.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I don't know how they were doing in the 1980s, but I thought it was really clever that when, the sister asked for his, like, paperwork, he just quits and everything. Because, like, that's, when you're not trying to have your identity out there or anything like that, that makes sense. But, the Jerry in the 80s one, he's able to go become a top salesman at a real estate agency, and all the families are like, they love him and everything like that. I'm like, they probably don't have, you could probably forge everything in the 1980s. It's probably a lot easier, like, less, no computers at all.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff that I like, because I, follow a lot of true crime stuff, and I didn't actually know this until I think it was like a Ted Bundy documentary I watched some, but even like driver's license back then didn't have pictures on them. It was just names. So
That's crazy.
you could just print a driver's license and put whatever name you wanted on it, and like that was it. As long as you had, I guess you need like a fake social security card, but there was no photo identification. A license was a piece of paper with your name and date of birth on it, and that's all they had to go on.
That's insane. And yeah, and then probably the cross reference. You're like, I gotta mail this across. Like, I don't even know when fax machines came around, but I'll mail this. I got the results. It's like, oh shit, did you guys realize that he's been gone for 3 days? Like,
Yeah.
like once you guys started checking, he left. Like,
But I really, really like the original. I think the original's really, like you said, aside from the holes in that one little side story, I think it's really good, very believable. Again, it's just that polish. It's all these very, I don't even know, they're just like all supermodel actors and actresses in really high-end suburbia, where the original was just very normal middle class family. You felt connected to them, you felt a lot. And this was Hollywood polish to the maximum for this remake. And that took a lot. They, like you said, they do address a lot. He leaves with the paperwork. When they try to get the paperwork, he just leaves. Makes sense. Having the ex-husband be the person who's suspicious makes sense. It's just that classic Hollywood polish that just pulled me out of it, you know?
yeah, no, you're absolutely right though about that, because just look at how the difference is in the movies, and especially the whiteness of the remake. I noticed very cool looking. Everything's very, like, just very polished in general. The houses are very well taken care of. Not that the 80s house isn't. Another thing, obviously, is switching from a daughter to a son and adding the other kids. I thought that was actually pretty interesting that there's other kids involved. Kind of adding an extra layer. But isn't she supposed to be like 16 in the original? And they made sure to put a nude scene in there.
Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure maybe 17. I'm trying to remember if she might be like a senior in high school, getting ready to go to college. But she's young. She's too young for that. So that's for sure.
Okay, yeah. I was just making sure. I'm like, because she seems very young, like the way she is, like with the therapist and everything. She seems more like a 14-year-old than like an almost 18-year-old. Even though she obviously is the classic final girl in this movie who's going to save the day.
Yeah, well, kind of, because we did get a stepfather too.
Yes, which is funny because, like, I'm sure he's dead at the end of this. At least I mean, you watched the Stepfather 2, and I don't remember it all if I even saw it, so you'll have to explain it to me. But at the end of the remake, at least they make it very clear that he's still alive.
Yeah, well, he is. And we could dive in. I don't know. Basically, he ends up living. He's got like a big old scar on his chest from where he got stabbed, and he is in an insane asylum essentially, but escapes because he like kills one of the therapists and puts on like a fake beard in his suit and just walks out of the mental institute dressed as the psychiatrist and just leaves and goes and starts a new family.
And that's it. It's like the same thing, like where he's, if his family disappoints him, he'll kill him.
So what's interesting actually is I guess the remake probably took a little bit out of this one because he finds a woman who has a son and an ex-husband.
Ah,
And the ex-husband does come around a lot more, which is what causes a problem. He ends up killing the ex-husband and the stepfather too. But then of course, there's a neighbor who's like, I'm super suspicious of this guy. Like he's not who he says he is. He actually ends up pretending to be a therapist and like gets all the women in this neighborhood to come to his house once a week to have a big group therapy session together. Like it's wild how much he gets away with, but he does end up killing the ex-husband and then the son. He actually almost gets married to her. I forgot about that. There's a wedding scene, and it ends at their wedding.
I gotta rewatch the Stepfather too. This sounds actually really good.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. There is a Stepfather 3 that I did not watch because O'Quinn's not in it.
Yeah, one thing I read about Terry O'Quinn when I was doing my original Stepfather research is that he didn't want to get typecast as playing this guy. Like
Yeah.
he would kind of have like a second wind in like the 2000s with the show Lost. And
Mhm.
that's actually where I saw him originally. And then I just didn't realize that he was just floating around. Like he's in Tombstone also. He's in Young Guns. Like he was floating around the 80s and 90s. He's just a very underrated actor. He really does do such good work in the original Stepfather. And I gotta rewatch the Stepfather too. Does it look as good as the first, or is it like a little bit like toned down from that?
I mean, it looks pretty much the same, I would say. Maybe a little toned down, but it's shot very, very similarly. Um, I think you'll like it. I was surprised. I really liked it. Again, it's one of those things. I feel like these types of movies, they came out at the perfect time. They were written at a time when I feel like everything in cinema matched. You know, the camera work, the just everything about the setting and the actual having real sets, being in real neighborhoods, that kind of stuff. That's why these films work so well in the 80s because the writing, the story, the acting, it all lines up perfectly. Where when you get to the modern day stuff, we keep saying Hollywood polish. That really it separates you more from it and you feel less connected to it and you watch it and you're like, this is a movie. Whereas in the 80s, it's gritty enough that you can kind of really sink yourself into it and not feel so removed because of just how natural it feels.
I completely agree. It just feels very much of a natural 1980s family life. Like, we were around in 2009 and nobody spoke and talked like that or looked that good. It's crazy, like, I mean, unless you were like the rich of the rich, but this guy's supposed to be blending into a normal life. And this is what they consider normal. I mean, even towards the end, like that mother with the two kids that, he's clearly gonna, boys will be boys. Like, that she's beautiful, but for a struggling single mother, she's not gonna look that good in the store. I'm sorry. Even him, he's just got a bandage on his neck and he's still handsome.
Yeah, and I always think about these things. I think like how because we know how much like the housing market is and everything. How are these people like single parents affording like these mansions,
Yeah.
gigantic, humongous houses on one income?
Like even the dad the first dad, the original dad in the remake, like he looks like he just has like a regular job. She doesn't like seem like she has a special job either, but yet you're right, their house is like incredible, like $1 million house. In
Yeah,
2025. I don't know what the housing market. I'm not a real estate agent like Jerry.
we should give them a call.
American Eagle Real Estate, right?
Yeah. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's that polish of and we talked about it on one of our live shows too, where I was like, I don't understand what Hollywood thinks high school was like, but all high school kids have these incredibly brand new, expensive cars. Their high schools are all outdoors, where like
Mhm.
your locker room's in a courtyard with fountains and like it's a college campus, but it's high. I'm like, the high school I went to was a ton of brick walls with security guards and canine sniffer dogs all the time. Like the nicest car in the parking lot was if someone had like a 2006 Nissan Altima. So I don't. That's the stuff that happens that I just get, and maybe it's just me. I mean, I just get pulled out of it because I'm like I can't relate to these characters. Like, how are you 16 driving around a brand new restored 1970 Ford Bronco? Like that's just not real.
I know exactly. When were you doing that? When did you learn to restore that? Like, or did your dad buy it? And I'm like, and then your dad can't buy that. He works at the factory.
Exactly. That's the stuff that just pulls me out of the newer ones, where the older ones, they just feel real. The family feels real.
I completely agree. I mean, the original one is an all-time classic in my opinion. That should get a lot more love. I don't understand like why it kind of came and went. People kind of just overlooked it at the time, I guess. I mean, enough though that it got a sequel and then the third film and then the remake. So it's had a cult following to the point that people generally love the original movie. I think now, the remake. I don't think anyone's ever been talking about that. I think that was just one like it was a complete and utter cash grab and it feels like it. Like it's just when I can't like spin it any other way. Like it just feels empty. It feels hollow compared to the original. And Dylan Walsh is fine. He's got some moments like we talked about in this. Like there's some good things in that movie, some good ideas. But it really does sound like honestly, I should have watched The Stepfather too because I think you're right. It took a lot from that too.
Yeah, it's almost now that, and it's funny, I didn't even think about them, but as you talked about how now he's got a son and the ex-husband, it really feels like when they went to the remake, it's almost like the Friday 13th remake from '09, where they were
Mhm.
like, okay, let's take the first three Fridays and put all of that into one film. And that's almost what this remake feels like. They're like, let's take both Stepfather 1 and Stepfather 2. Let's mix and match. Take pieces we like from each, put them all in the same movie, and that'll be the remake. Because there's a ton of crossover with the second one, with the son, with the ex-husband. All that stuff is very similar to this remake. Obviously, they take a lot, like the opening scene we talk about, that's pulled straight from the first one. The fact that he's got a beard and glasses and shaves, pulled straight from the first one. I mean, some of it's shot for shot
Yeah,
remake.
they made to like really like they meant to hit all the big points. The opening is supposed to directly like because they know the original one's iconic, but don't do it if you're just gonna water it down. Like it almost feels like they're banking on you knowing that it's a remake because of the points they hit. Like when they do the "Who Am I Here" in the remake, they put a sting in the score and they zoom in on his face. Like in the original one, when he does that, the camera doesn't move. I don't even think there's music playing, so it's just like we're in his confusion of like, wait a minute, wait, who am I here? And then when she tells him, like in this one, like that's thunder and lightning outside. It's such a big because they know we know what's coming. But if you're just somebody who watches that, only watched the '09 remake and doesn't even realize there's an original, you might be like, why was that such a big deal for him to say it like that?
Who am I here?
David, what are
David!
You know, I don't know. I feel like that's just again, then why remake it? It's just like the Psycho remake. Why remake it?
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about it because we talked about how we're doing this and the question of like, would Jaws come up? Would Jaws ever be remade or Terminator, any of that stuff? And that's exactly the film that came to my mind. I was like, nothing is safe because Psycho was remade with Vince Vaughn.
Yep, as Norman
So
Bates.
nothing is safe. But I mean, I think this one's pretty clear. I know when we did the Texas one, I did give a lot of props to the remake. I still gave the edge to the original, but I do like the remake of Texas. I personally thought Dawn of the Dead remake was better, but I think this one, I think it's pretty clear on how we're feeling.
Yeah, this one's a clear cut, easy winner. I would say out of the three we've done on our remake of original versus remake, I would say right now it's a this is the easiest one. This is a layup. Any way you want to spin it, it's not even close for me. I'll probably never watch the remake. This should be it. Whereas the Stepfather, you know, I might watch that again in 6 months. I just absolutely enjoy that film.
Yeah, and you got to watch Stepfather too, and let me know what you
Yep.
think.
I am gonna watch the step. I'm really interested in that now. You like that was the best pitch I've heard of that, and I gotta go watch Stepfather too. And
Yeah.
one thing we want to address because you guys will see the standings right here of original versus remake. And last time we had the remake of Dawn of the Dead tied with the the original from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so it was a 1-1. But because me and Dennis were so split on Dawn of the Dead, we let you guys vote on it. And it was really close, 55% for the original and 45 for the remake. So you guys were almost as split as us, but since we passed the baton to you, we're going to let you guys, pick it, and we're going to change the scoreboard now to 3 for original and 0 for the remake.
I did the best I could. I really did. I
Yeah,
fought.
that
I
was the
tried.
closest thing. There was no way to actually, it's so close. It's not even really fair because like, it really, that one is like you can go either way. For it to be 55-45, it's truly almost a coin flip.
Yeah, and I do feel like when you look at the comments too, most people, if they voted for the original, they did say the remake was really good though. And if they voted for the remake, they did say the original was really good though. So the split wasn't even like half of you hate one and love the other. Everybody genuinely seemed to, in their own mind, be 50-50. Like, I really like both of them, but the edge to original or remake. So that one, that's been the toughest one so far. But so far, original's taken it, man. 3-0 so far.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have some interesting ones coming down the line, but just a quick question for you: do you feel like you have to like try and separate them enough? Because thinking about it, that was the out of the three we've done. I think that was the one that made the most bold decisions in trying to separate itself from the original, where they're very different movies for the Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, they both take place in a mall, but other than that, and certain beats obviously paying homage to the original, it's a very different movie. Whereas like the Stepfather, they make sure to hit the same story beats throughout this movie, and same thing with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They pretty much went for the full blown remake of that one as well, even though they had some subtle differences. Do you think that if it's the better option, like go and take some liberties and not try and go for a complete remake?
I think that's an interesting discussion because it depends. I think if you do it right, yes. But I think there are remakes out there that go so far off to say we're remaking this and the only thing that's the same is the main character, everything else is different, that it does turn the viewer off. But I think if you do just enough similar, but take enough chances to basically make it the kind of standard, because to me, Dawn of the Dead and the remake of Dawn of the Dead are two totally different movies. Even if you take out the fact that zombies are completely different and all that stuff, storyline, the character development, the little things they added in the new one, like the woman being pregnant and the zombie baby, all that stuff, all big risks. The building the war machine cars instead of the helicopter, like they changed a lot of things, and I think they changed just enough to make it stand out as like, okay, this is a remake essentially in title alone. Whereas I think one of the, and it's funny, the biggest issue we have with the one we're talking about now is they took the Stepfather and said, okay, here are the main 10 points we got to hit. The rest is going to be filler. Go make this movie. And it just falls flat.
Yep. And that's exactly what it like. This is usually how the remakes have lately gone, is in the sense that they just feel very empty. I mean, Disney is the king of this. And me and you, when we were talking about like how we're gonna do this show, and we're like, there's a lot, but we don't want to get to the point where we run out of movies and we have to start doing Disney remakes, because I think those are the easiest. They have never felt like anything compared to the original. I mean, Lilo and Stitch is a great example of this. I watched the original one, such a colorful, beautiful looking movie, and then the remake is just the same movie with like less color, and like in the real world it's like, but do you understand that animation you could do so much more sometimes? I don't know. You made the movies, Disney. Forget it. I'm gonna get upset.
Yeah, we'll try to avoid that topic. Obviously a hot button issue, but I think to really give you an answer to your question, I think it is more important to take risks when you remake than to just carbon copy it, because like you said, if you just copy and paste, it feels empty. And if you're making the exact same movie, you're opening yourself up to the critique of shot for shot. Like you did A, they did A. Who did it better? You did B, they did B. Who did it better? Whereas if you take some liberties, you try to put your own spin on it, it's not an apples to apples comparison. You can say, well, listen, yeah, it's different. And we did our own artistic look on it. And that's why we remade it. And I think that's what leads to better remakes. The copy paste method, they just, slap some Hollywood lipstick on it and call it a new movie. And it's like, no, well, the original was better.
Yep, it's essentially basically like what Pet Cemetery does to people and pets. Sometimes dad is dead, like sometimes dad is better. You just got to leave them, like just leave the movies alone. Don't have to dig them all up and try and remake them like shot for shot, because yeah, it's the same thing, but it's way worse.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're not remakes, but I mean, look at how far the Jurassic Park movies have come, thinking about because of your hat.
Makes me sick.
Have any of them been better than the original?
I said in my reviews that the closest that any Jurassic Park sequel gets to Jurassic Park is average. They've all been average to bad. Like I can watch The Lost World, like 3 was fine. Jurassic World is like the closest to my opinion, but even that, it's like it's just product placement throughout the entire thing. Just takes you right out of it. Nothing will ever come close to the original, and it's a shame because I'll keep trying.
Yeah, but that's what I think that's kind of the main point is like there are some things that you don't need to do it. And it's interesting because we're doing this, and I feel like for the most part, our viewers agree with our assessment of films that we're reviewing. And as we continue, I'm curious, how many times are we really going to say the remake was better? How many times are the viewers going to agree that the remake was better? Because that'll show you right there, are you even really doing anything to improve a franchise? Or is every single remake genuinely just a cash grab that no one really liked?
Well, a remake in general, for the most part, like I feel like back in the day it was different, because now the whole thing is that they're just trying to capitalize on your love for the original, which is, right out of the gate, that's a bad way to go about things, because people are going to automatically compare it to the original. Back when you used to get movies like in the early 80s, for example, you got Scarface and The Thing. How many people were aware of the originals of those movies? Because for Scarface, it's from the 30s, and The Thing from Outer Space, I want to say, is the 50s. Like just the way media spread at the time, it's like, unless you were like an extreme cinephile, it's not like they had the internet. Were you even aware of those? So those people were remaking the movies essentially because they had no money to make them back in the day, or like technology has come so far. Whereas now, like the Stepfather is the late 80s and this one's 2009. It's not a huge gap.
Yeah, and I think also like streaming services, social media, like how connected the world is nowadays. it's almost impossible for you to not realize. Like if you Google The Stepfather, I'm sure all of them come up. A list that shows you the original, the sequel, the third one, the remake. So it's really hard for people now to not realize that there was an original film, especially with how connected we are. I mean, when we talk about stuff, there's Twitter and TikTok and all the YouTube and all these people who discuss things. It's almost impossible to not realize there's original and a remake. Whereas back then, like you said, the film was made in the 30s. How did you know if you had a newspaper from 1930 that showed you, oh, this film interesting, and you had it all the way in when Scarface came out, but who's saving 70 years? You're not saving a newspaper. I mean, like there's no way for people to know back then. Now we're so connected, everybody knows.
Exactly. That's the difference between now and today and years ago. Like just the fact that we have social media and the internet, it's just going to change how we view the entire world. We can easily go back and watch the originals now, whereas you probably couldn't back in the day. Like that's why in like the original Halloween, the fact he's watching the thing from outer space is pretty crazy because obviously he wanted to make that movie. It meant a lot to him, but how many people actually even realized that? It's not even until years later that I realized it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. They had to do that kind of stuff. And now, like, even just think about streaming services. I mean, anytime, think about all these films we're doing on remakes. Honestly, when we pick the next one, I could probably go onto my smart TV, search the title, and boom, I have the original, the sequels, the remakes, the remake of the remake, all of it right there. I can watch all of it in a day just through my smart TV. Like it's so easy. Everything is so accessible that remakes just don't, like, there's no reason.
I completely agree. I'm sorry about the dogs today. I don't know why they're going nuts.
No worries.
I don't understand. Something today for some reason is just something with them. But yeah, I completely agree with everything that you're saying. And it's funny because we're going to be doing our next one, so it's a good time to bring it up, which has two remakes. I mean, has an original, a remake that I it's kind of a loose remake, I guess, and then the one that we know, which is going to be House of Wax. So we're going to pick this one because me and Dennis really wanted to do this.
Yeah, and it's lost every vote. So we just decided that now it's we did one vote, we did another vote, then we did a vote with all the ones that lost the first two. Now it's kind of like we would like to just get into some movies we want to watch, and because I've never seen the remake or the original, and I've never seen the remake of the original. I've only ever actually seen the newest, the remake of the remake, if you will.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. I've only ever seen the Vincent Price one and the remake. I'm gonna go back and watch the original for this one too, see how that one compares to those two. So I only saw the original. Well, God, it's so hard to say with this one when there's remakes and remakes. It's like Batman. Like, how can we do Batman on this show? Like, are there remakes or they're just retellings of different stories, right?
I feel like it has to be. I mean, because even if you argue, you could just go by villain, like which one has the Joker in it. The stories are so vastly different. The backgrounds are so vastly different. Some are super comic book accurate. Some go completely off the rails and don't follow the comic at all. I think superhero movies are really hard to do because they're just always. I mean, we're getting another Superman movie.
Couple weeks.
It probably completely different from Man of Steel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people are freaking out online about that. So, yeah, very much different.
The only superhero, I'm going to say this now, the only superhero movie I will do on this series is if Spawn gets remade.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Yeah, absolutely. That's fair enough.
That is my line for superheroes because, again, I feel like every single movie I'm petitioning, please, for the love of God, somebody make a Spawn movie or series or whatever it is. Live action. I know there's the animated series, but live action Spawn remake, please, 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 please.
Yep, we're talking to you, Todd McFarlane. Please do that for us.
Please, I have the comic book sitting right next to me. I want the movie.
We've only been asking for years now. Just listen to us. We'll pay. We'll buy more tickets too. We'll pre-order the 4Ks.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah. So that's. I mean,
so guys, 3-0. That's it. We'll have to see. I think we might next time, maybe the remake. We'll have to wait and see, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun, but I mean, I didn't mind the House of Wax, so we'll see. But for now, originals, man, undefeated. Thanks to the vote. So thank you, viewers. We could have had a remake on the board, but you guys took it right away from us.
Thank you for that. Yep, that was it. Now it's gonna be. Now it's all fixed. You guys can see it right in front of you. But anyway, thank you guys for being here with us on another original versus remake. These are going to be every other week, and then you guys could pay attention. Me and Dennis will be on other shows every other week. We're going to start some other series, some top 10 lists. So we got a lot. So me and Dennis will have a video up every week, and we also have a live show, the two of us, every Tuesday, the Let's Talk Morning Show at 7:30 a.m. It's a Q&A movie show. Make sure you guys tune in, do a digital code giveaway. So a lot of fun to be had here on the channel. And we just want to thank you guys for being here with us here today.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. And we'll be seeing you guys around.